Okay, so this is going to be a short video on a kind of contemporary process of the art of lithography called polyester plate is the generic name. There are several other forms of plates called pronto plates. There's smart plates. There's one for inkjet, but we're going to use the smart plate today. And I've set up and organized my space here, so it's always a good idea before you begin working on anything. So there are a lot of variations and possibilities to this process. It's not, should not be considered a substitution for other litho processes. They all kind of have their pros and cons, but polyester plate is basically a plastic plate that's used commercially for printing, and we've adapted them now for fine art. So kind of some benefits are that they're obviously very portable, they tend to be inexpensive, and are quite accessible throughout the world. So those are some real benefits to polyester plate. So I have my materials here. There are probably others, or you may also develop and find some other materials that you like to use as well. So the one possibility is to print out what is a laser copy. These are laser oriented plates, not for inkjet. So I printed this out. I typically like to bump up the contrast personally just a little bit. It's hard to hold very subtle tones, but they are quite capable of doing so. So this is one I've printed out. I've also drawn on with materials that I'm also going to use here. So you can do just the photo, or you could do the photo with drawing. I haven't tried this, but I accidentally printed it out in color. I might be able to print that, and would not print as this color, but whatever color ink I would use. So, but I'm going to be initially printing this side. So we'll be doing that one. I've started another plate already. Talk about some materials you can use. So I've used some spray enamel here in the background, give it a light tone. And then I also, a material that I've kind of like to use in other processes as well, is toner powder from a laser printer. So I've drawn these areas. Be very careful if you're using toner powder. You don't want to breathe it in. So I've mixed this with water. This one is with water that has a little soap in it, so it goes into solution, because toner is like a plastic ball really under a microscope. This one, toner with water and alcohol, so it gives you kind of a little different texture. And this one is toner mixed with alcohol, so that becomes kind of more painterly as well. So those, and then I heated it. This particular plate was heated in an oven on a baking sheet at 250 for a minute and a half. That melts the toner so it sticks and will not be removed by wiping it away. I also did that with this. If you don't heat the photo impression after it's been printed, as you print, it'll gradually disappear. It hasn't been really adhered to this. Now there are some printers that have a higher heat application, but in mine I found it's kind of necessary to heat it in the oven again slightly to make sure it's melted to the plate. Okay, so some other drawing materials that I'm going to add to this plate. You could use either side. Both sides are suitable for image carrying and printing. But another thing I like to use is printing ink as a drawing material. So I can, like if I put it on the edge, I can get like really nice linear applications. Or I'm going to apply just a light, delicate tonal application here. Can do that. So that's possible. Have that. Markers, so I like acrylic paint markers. work well. There's a nice solid line. Any color, obviously all these colors aren't going to matter when I print. It's going to be the color of printing ink we're using. A lithographic crayon, and where I put my crayon. So acrylic paint, if you want like a really nice solid, this is soft-bodied Liquitex. Again, doesn't matter what color, but if you want like a nice solid area, a dry brush approach, or you can thin it with water and establish a nice washy look to it. And also, we can see here, I used a number 3 litho pencil for these marks, so you could do a drawn image. So you can use any or all these on your polyester plates, and Sharpie marker, similar to the acrylic paint marker, you can use. So that gives you quite a variety of drawing materials can be used on polyester plates. So this one now is going to take time to dry because I've applied the acrylic, so we're going to want to let it dry. This other one is kind of ready to be processed and printed at this point. So for processing, the kind of secret ingredient to most all lithography is gum arabic. So that will render all the negative areas, even the delicate tonal areas, so they will not accept any more drawing materials or printing ink when printed. So if we didn't do that, they would get a dirty plate and would deteriorate. So that will be the purpose of applying that. So key ingredient there, very important. So I have 2 bowls of water, typically a cold water bowl and an empty bowl for dirty water. So initially I'm just going to put some water under my plate so it'll stay in position, won't slide around. I'm going to apply some gum arabic, you need a lot, to the surface overall. You can get a nice kind of massage to your plate. So after doing this, applying the gum, you can leave it set until you're ready to print, or as I'm going to do for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to begin printing right now. So the nice advantage, another pro, is unlike traditional lithography, it's not critical to roll it up first in black to stabilize the image and then go to a color. You could start now immediately with any color. Another pro advantage to using polyester plates, I found that it works equally well whether using a litho press or an etching press. So in this case, I am using an etching press for demonstration purposes. But we also could use a litho press. So I've rolled out initially a small amount of black ink. Inks for the process. A lot of inks will work for this process. Typically the typical lithographic inks are well suited. Also, there are many types, such as graphic chemical, GANs, handshake. I personally am now, it's just a personal preference, I'm using Sphinx ink, the acrylic type. They're primarily used for letterpress, so letterpress inks also work quite nicely for this process and other processes I practice. So I'm going to roll out a thin amount of ink here initially, kind of get it nice and even on the inking slab. Take my sponge. So sponging a surface in lithography, as lithographers know, that is also very critical in the success of your printing. You don't want too much water, you don't want too little water, just a nice, damp, even surface. So people have different practices with polyester plates. Some leave a large border around and start inside that margin before the image. I'm of the practice where I start actually on the plate, so I don't roll up the plate on my roller, and I can roll off the plate, but I typically will start on the plate. So let me do that. Kind of applying firm pressure, good speed, also a critical factor. Each time you apply ink to your lithographic surface, when you finish, you want to sponge it, give it a nice film of damp water. Again, sponging it out with pressure. And it's looking quite nice at this point. Start on the plate, you can roll off the plate. Make sure you keep it nice and clean. A final sponge. And now we will run it through the press. So initially you should take show you how the plate looks. Do like a newsprint impression. So my registration, there's many types and forms of registration, but one that I like to practice is to trace out initially my paper size, which is this, paper I'm printing, and then the size of my plate that I'll be printing. So I put that in position. It's not critical because I'm just going to print a newsprint. A, push some ink into it, and B, see what it looks like. I got that set up. I have a thin blanket and a medium blanket. I'm going to use firm pressure. Should not get my knife in the way. Alright, I'm going to bring it back through. Normally you'll just run it through once, but for the purposes here I will bring it back through. Pull this off. We will see how we did. Pretty good impression for our first print on newsprint. Now I will ink it up for this demo, and then I will print a sheet of good paper. So again, when you go back to your inking surface, I'm going to apply a little water so it sticks. Sponge it down, kind of from the center out. Nice and flat. Take my brayer. Again, starting on the plate, pushing it out. So I always try to practice on a plate this size. In lithography, typically you don't want to add too much ink all at once. It just kind of takes a slow buildup of image. So I'm going to do it 3 times. That was my second. Sponge the whole surface, keep it nice and clean. My third and last time. Everything seems to be taking ink well. Final sponging. Also, this is clean, but you might want to make sure everything is cleaned over here on your printing surface here. Line it up within that image area. So paper, sometimes people ask about a favorite paper. I don't have a favorite. I like to try and practice with different papers. Different images, different papers. Some people also will hold the blankets up. Kind of depends upon your style. Kind of helps with plates moving, wrinkling, things like that. So it's kind of like your choice. Okay, looks pretty good. It's very typical. It might need just a little more ink. So I'll add just a little more ink to my slab. But I think there's really nice detail in this image. So that's, you just would continue inking and printing your impressions for your edition. When you are finished, you could just put some gum arabic, maybe pull another impression and take most of the ink off, put some gum arabic and keep your plate if you like, and go back to it and print it in the future. So as a final moment here, I would like to just show you some prints that I've done along the way using polyester plates. This one is actually a color separation. I actually only use red, yellow, and blue in this case from an image that I had. This one is a drawn image with toner, using a toner mix. This one is mostly black and white, has a combination of the photo and drawn applications called Toro. Kind of looks like a bull's head in the middle. And this one, more photographic. This rose was printed, and then I used watercolor to add some more value and emphasize the rose image. So that's your introduction to polyester plate. Remember, that's the generic name, but you can find what plates are available from your local suppliers. I will be doing a series of lithographic videos, but this is like one of my current areas that I'm enjoying in the art of lithography.